What happens when a late-night host asks one simple question that sends a royal guest into a complete meltdown on live television? It only took one comment about privacy for Prince Harry to explode in a way that left the entire studio in absolute shock. Seth Meyer sat behind his desk that night, ready for what he thought would be a pleasant conversation. The audience was buzzing with excitement. Prince Harry walked out to huge applause, waving and smiling like everything was perfectly fine. He sat down, adjusted his suit jacket, and the interview began. Seth started with the easy stuff. He asked about adjusting to life in America, about the weather, about missing certain things from home. Prince Harry answered politely, laughing at the right moments. Everything seemed normal. The audience was loving it. Seth was his usual charming self, making jokes that landed perfectly. Then Seth shifted gears. He leaned forward slightly and said, "So, I have to ask, and I think a lot of people are curious about this. You've spoken a lot about wanting privacy for your family, but you've also done interviews, documentaries, written a book. How do you balance those two things?" The question hung in the air for a moment. It was a fair question, reasonable, the kind of thing any good interviewer would ask. But you could see Prince Harry's expression change immediately. His smile disappeared. His jaw tightened. The energy in the room shifted. Prince Harry stared at Seth for what felt like forever. Then he said, "That's a very reductive way of looking at it." Seth, still friendly, still professional, responded with, "I don't think it is. I'm genuinely asking. Help me understand." "Help you understand?" Prince Harry shot back. His voice was louder now. "Maybe if you actually listened to what I've been saying for years, you wouldn't need help understanding." The audience went quiet. You could hear people shifting in their seats. Seth maintained his composure. He smiled, trying to keep things light. "I have been listening. That's why I'm asking the question. It seems like there's a contradiction there that people find confusing." Prince Harry leaned forward, his face reddening. "A contradiction? You mean like how the media twists everything I say? How people like you sit here in your safe little studios and judge my life without knowing anything about what I've been through?" Seth's smile faded just a bit. "I'm not judging you. I'm asking you a question. That's what happens in interviews." "Oh, is that what this is?" Prince Harry said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "An interview? Because it feels more like an interrogation. It feels like you brought me here just to make me look bad in front of your audience." Seth shook his head slowly. "That's not what's happening here at all. I asked you one question. A question that a lot of people have. If you don't want to answer it, that's fine. We can move on." But Prince Harry wasn't ready to move on. He stood up slightly in his chair, gesturing with his hands. "You know what your problem is, Seth? Your problem is that you think you're so clever. You think you can ask these loaded questions and I'll just sit here and take it." The audience was completely silent now. Seth remained calm, his hands folded on his desk. "It wasn't a loaded question. It was a straightforward question about something you've publicly discussed. Publicly discussed because I was forced to." Prince Harry's voice was rising. "Because people like you wouldn't leave me alone. Because the media hounded my family for years. And now you sit here, in your comfortable position, making money off of people's pain, and you have the audacity to question me about privacy?" Seth took a breath. You could see he was trying to de-escalate. "I understand that you've been through a lot. I'm not trying to minimize that. But you came on this show voluntarily. Nobody forced you to be here. And when you're a public figure who makes public statements, people are going to have questions." Prince Harry stood up completely now. "Public figure? Is that all I am to you? Just another celebrity you can mock? Just another guest you can use for ratings?" Seth stood up too, but his posture was non-threatening. "That's not fair, and you know it. I treat all my guests with respect. I've been nothing but respectful to you tonight." "Respectful?" Prince Harry laughed. But it wasn't a happy laugh. It was bitter, angry. "You call this respect? Ambushing me with questions designed to make me look like a hypocrite? I didn't ambush you with anything." Seth's voice was firm now, but still controlled. "I asked you one question. One. And instead of answering it or saying you'd rather not discuss it, you've attacked me personally. You've insulted my show. You've accused me of things I haven't done." Prince Harry pointed at Seth. "Because you're exactly like all the rest of them. You pretend to be friendly. You pretend to care. But really, you just want the drama. You just want the soundbite. You just want something you can use." The audience started murmuring. Some people looked uncomfortable. Others looked shocked. Seth spread his hands out in a gesture of openness. I invited you here to have a conversation. That's it. If you feel like this isn't going well, we can end it right now. No hard feelings." "Oh, how generous of you," Prince Harry said mockingly. "How very American of you. Just end it when it gets uncomfortable. Just run away from the hard conversations." Seth's expression hardened just a little. "I'm not running away from anything. I'm trying to give you an out because you clearly don't want to be here anymore." "An out? You think I need an out from you?" Prince Harry's face was fully red now. "You're nobody. You're just another late-night host who'll be forgotten in 5 years. You think you can talk to me like I'm some random actor promoting a movie?" The audience gasped. Actual gasps. Seth stood there, taking it in. Then he said quietly, "I've never claimed to be anything more than a late-night host. But I don't talk down to my guests. I don't insult them. And I don't let them insult me or my staff or my audience. Then maybe you should book better guests." Prince Harry shouted. "Maybe you should stick to interviewing people who'll just sit here and laugh at your jokes and not challenge anything you say." Seth's voice was steady. "You haven't challenged anything. You've just gotten angry at a simple question, and now you're lashing out." "I'm lashing out? I'm defending myself against someone who clearly had an agenda from the start." "What agenda?" Seth asked, his arms out to his sides. "What possible agenda could I have? I asked you about something you've talked about in multiple interviews, something you wrote about in your own book. How is that an agenda?" Prince Harry started pacing now, back and forth behind the chair. "You know what? I don't have now to explain myself to you. I don't have to justify my choices to you or to anyone watching this show. I came here as a courtesy, and this is how you treat me?" Seth remained standing behind his desk. "I've treated you the same way I treat everyone who sits in that chair, with respect and with honest questions. If you can't handle honest questions, then maybe doing interviews isn't the right choice. Don't you dare tell me what choices to make." Prince Harry spun around to face Seth directly. "You have no idea what it's like to live my life. You have no idea what it's like to have every single thing you do picked apart and analyzed and criticized." "You're right," Seth said calmly. "I don't know what that's like. But I do know what it's like to have a conversation with someone who's being unreasonable. And right now, that's what's happening." Prince Harry's hands were shaking. "Unreasonable? You call me unreasonable? After what you've put me through tonight? I asked you one question." Seth's voice rose for the first time. "One question. And you've spent the last several minutes attacking me, attacking my show, attacking my audience. That's not me putting you through something. That's you choosing to react this way." "I don't have to listen to this," Prince Harry said, his voice tight. "I don't have to stand here and be lectured by someone who makes jokes for a living." "Then don't," Seth said simply. "The door is right there. You can leave anytime you want." Prince Harry stared at him. The entire studio was holding its breath. You could have heard a pin drop. Prince Harry's chest was rising and falling rapidly. His fists were clenched at his sides. "You know what, Seth?" Prince Harry's voice was shaking now. "You're going to regret this. You're going to regret the way you've treated me tonight. You think you're so smart. You think you're so funny. But you're nothing. You're absolutely nothing." Seth didn't flinch. "If that's how you feel, that's fine. But I stand by everything I've said and done tonight. I asked a fair question. You chose to take it personally. That's on you, not me." Prince Harry grabbed his microphone pack and ripped it off. He threw it on the chair. "I'm done here. I'm done with you. I'm done with this whole thing." "That's your choice to make," Seth said evenly. Prince Harry started walking toward the exit. Then he stopped and turned back around. "And another thing. Your show? It's not even funny. I've been sitting through your monologue, through your jokes, and none of it was funny. I was being polite, but you know what? You're not talented. You're not clever. You're just lucky." The audience made a collective sound of shock. Seth stood there, absorbing the insult. Then he said, "I'm sorry you feel that way. I hope whatever's really bothering you gets better." That seemed to set Prince Harry off even more. "Don't you dare psychoanalyze me. Don't you dare act like you're taking the high road. You started this." "I asked a question," Seth repeated, his voice maddeningly calm. "That's all I did. Everything else has been your reaction." Prince Harry pointed at Seth again, his hand trembling. "You are everything that's wrong with the media. You pretend to be different. You pretend to be one of the good guys. But you're just as bad as the tabloids. You're just as exploitative. You're just as cruel." Seth's expression didn't change. "I understand you're upset, but I haven't been cruel to you. I haven't exploited you. I invited you on my show, and I treated you with the same respect I treat everyone. Respect? Prince Harry laughed again. That same bitter laugh. You don't know the meaning of the word. You sit here in your little bubble, making jokes about people's lives, and you call it respect? I make jokes about public figures and public events, Seth said. That's what satire is. That's what late-night shows do. You knew that when you agreed to come on. I agreed too. Come on, because I thought you were different, Prince Harry was shouting now. I thought you were better than the others. But you're not. You're exactly the same. I'm sorry I disappointed you, Seth said. And he actually sounded sincere. But I can't change the fact that I asked you a question you didn't like. That's part of doing interviews. Prince Harry shook his head violently. No, you don't get to do this. You don't get to act like the victim here. You set me up. You brought me on just to embarrass me. I brought you on to have a conversation, Seth said firmly. That's it. You're the one who's making this into something else. Because you pushed me. Prince Harry's voice cracked slightly. You pushed and pushed with your smug little questions and your smug little face. The audience was completely stunned. Some people had their hands over their mouths. Seth remained composed. I asked one question. You're the one who escalated this. You're the one who started. Insulting me and my show. I've been trying to keep this civil. Civil? Prince Harry spat the word out. There's nothing civil about what you did. You knew exactly what you were doing. You wanted this reaction. You wanted me to lose my temper so you'd have something to talk about tomorrow. That's not true, Seth said quietly. I wanted to have an interesting conversation, that's all. Prince Harry's breathing was heavy. His face was still red. You're a liar. You're a manipulative liar. And I'm not going to stand here and let you twist this around. I'm not twisting anything, Seth said. Everyone here saw what happened. Everyone watching at home saw what happened. I asked a question. You got angry. That's what happened. Prince Harry looked around at the audience. Some people looked away. Others stared back at him. He turned back to Seth. You've turned them against me, just like the media always does. You've made me look like the bad guy. Seth shook his head slowly. I haven't made you look like anything. You're doing this yourself. That was apparently the final straw. Prince Harry grabbed the water glass from the table and held it up like he was going to throw it. The audience screamed. Security started moving forward. Seth didn't move, but his eyes widened slightly. Don't, Seth said calmly. Don't do that. Prince Harry held the glass for another moment, his hand shaking. Then he slammed it back down on the table. Water splashed everywhere. He stormed toward the exit. But he wasn't done yet. He stopped at the curtain and turned back one more time. You know what the saddest part is? I actually thought you were a decent person. I thought you were someone who understood what it's like to be attacked by the media. But you're just another one of them. You're just another person who wants to tear me down. Seth's voice was gentle now. I don't want to tear you down. I never did. I'm genuinely sorry this went the way it did. No, you're not, Prince Harry said. You're thrilled. You got your moment. You got your viral clip. Congratulations, Seth. You win. This isn't about winning, Seth said. Nobody wins when a conversation goes this badly. Prince Harry laughed one more time, a short, harsh sound. Of course you'd say that. Of course you'd try to sound reasonable now. But I see through you. Everyone's going to see through you. He looked at the audience again. And you people, sitting there, judging me, you have no idea what it's like. None of you do. You just come here for entertainment, and you don't care whose life gets destroyed in the process. Someone in the audience started to say something, but Prince Harry cut them off. Save it. I don't want to hear it. You're all the same. You're all part of the problem. He pointed at Seth one final time. This isn't over. You think you can treat me like this and get away with it? You can't. There will be consequences. For you, for this show, for everyone involved. Seth stood up straighter. His voice was firm. Is that a threat? It's a promise, Prince Harry said coldly. Then I think it's time for you to leave, Seth said. Security will show you out. Prince Harry looked at the security guards approaching. I don't need your security. I'm leaving on my own. He turned to the audience one last time. Remember this moment. Remember what he did to me. Remember that Seth Meyers is not who you think he is. And with that, he pushed through the curtain and disappeared. The sound of a door slamming echoed through the studio. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The audience sat in complete shock. Seth stood behind his desk, his hands gripping the edge. Then Seth cleared his throat. He looked at the camera. We're going to take a quick break. he said, his voice steady despite everything that just happened. "When we come back, we'll have some music. We'll be right back." The show cut to commercial, but in the studio, chaos erupted. Producers rushed onto the stage. The audience was talking loudly, processing what they'd just witnessed. Seth sat down heavily in his chair, running his hands through his hair. A producer came over and put a hand on his shoulder. Seth looked up at him and shook his head in disbelief. The other guests scheduled for that night had been watching from backstage. Their faces showed pure shock. One of them asked if they should still go on. Seth nodded. The show had to continue. When they came back from commercial, Seth addressed what happened. He looked directly into the camera and said, "So, that was unexpected. I want to be clear about something. I asked a question, a fair question. What happened after that, you all saw. I don't want to pile on. I don't want to make this worse. But I also want to be honest about what occurred here tonight." The audience applauded. Seth held up his hand. "I invited Prince Harry onto this show in good faith. I prepared questions that I thought were relevant and respectful. I never intended for things to go the way they did. But I also can't apologize for doing my job. Asking questions is what I do. It's what any journalist or interviewer does." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "I hope that Prince Harry is okay. I genuinely do. But what happened tonight was not okay. The way he spoke to me, the way he spoke to you, the audience, that wasn't okay. And I think it's important to acknowledge that." More applause. Seth continued. "We're going to move on now. We have great guests and great music still to come. But I wanted to address that directly because I know everyone's going to be talking about it. So, there it is." "That's what happened," the show continued. The next guest came out. They made a few light jokes about the tension, but mostly tried to move past it. Seth was professional as always, asking good questions, making people laugh. But you could tell he was shaken. Everyone was shaken. In the control room, producers were already dealing with the fallout. Phones were ringing. Social media was exploding. Everyone had an opinion about what they'd just seen. Some people defended Prince Harry. Most people defended Seth. The clip was going to be everywhere by morning. Back on stage, Seth finished the show. He thanked his guests. He thanked the audience for sticking with them through such a bizarre night. He made a joke about hazard pay. People laughed, grateful for the release of tension. When the cameras stopped rolling, Seth stood up and addressed the studio audience directly. "Thank you all for being here tonight. I know that was uncomfortable. I appreciate you handling it with grace." The audience gave him a standing ovation. He looked genuinely moved by the support. Backstage, Seth talked with his producers. They reviewed the footage. They discussed whether to post the full interview online or just address it briefly. Seth was adamant that the full context needed to be available. He didn't want edited clips to tell the story. He wanted people to see exactly what happened from beginning to end. His staff rallied around him. Writers came up to shake his hand. Crew members gave him hugs. Everyone agreed that he'd handled an impossible situation with remarkable composure. Nobody blamed him for what happened. Nobody thought he'd done anything wrong. In his dressing room later, Seth sat quietly for a moment. He replayed the interview in his mind. He wondered if there was anything he could have done differently. Could he have phrased the question differently? Could he have backed off sooner? But he kept coming back to the same conclusion. He'd asked a fair question. Prince Harry had chosen to react the way he did. That wasn't on Seth. The next guest from that night stopped by to check on him. They talked about how surreal it all was, how you can prepare for a lot of things in this business, but not that. Not a guest having a complete meltdown on live television over one simple question. They both agreed it was one of the strangest things they'd ever experienced. Seth went home that night knowing that the next few days would be intense. There would be think pieces. There would be hot takes. There would be people dissecting every word, every gesture, every facial expression. But he felt confident that he'd done nothing wrong. He'd been a good host. He'd been respectful. He'd asked legitimate questions. And when things went sideways, he'd maintained his dignity. The audience that was there that night would never forget it. They'd seen something truly unprecedented. They'd watched a member of the royal family lose his composure completely on live television. They'd watched a host remain calm and professional in the face of personal attacks and insults. They'd witnessed a moment that would be talked about for years to come. And through it all, Seth Meyers had done exactly what a good host should do. He'd stayed calm. He'd tried to de-escalate. He'd defended himself when necessary. And he'd kept the show going, even when everything was falling apart around him. That's what professionalism looks like. That's what grace under pressure looks like. The interview became one of those moments that people remember exactly where they were when they saw it. It became a case study in how not to handle difficult questions. It became a reminder that being famous or royal doesn't mean you're immune to being asked tough questions. And it became proof that sometimes the best thing a host can do is simply tell the truth and let the chips fall where they may.